I'm not trying to offend anybody when I say this, no disrespect intended, but producers, if your beats sound like this, it's embarrassing. We got to stop this. Now, sometimes I get caught slipping too, and I let this slide, and it's embarrassing to me, and I'm mortified. But newer producers, inexperienced producers, or producers who are struggling with music theory are especially vulnerable to this problem, and it makes their beats sound terrible. And it's a simple fix, but it's sometimes not so easy to correct. Let's talk about this. So I got this sample. This is from my last pack, Painkillers 4. And this sample, like many samples that you will download and purchase and drop into your DAW, already has a bass line, but it certainly already has an established chord progression. Now let's hear it with drums and sub bass. Turn it off, make it stop. Not everybody will hear what's terribly wrong with that track. And part of that is maybe what you're listening to this video on. It could, come on, man. Hey, acoustic panels are not scratching posts. Now, part of this could just be what you're using to watch this video on. Maybe your speakers aren't giving a great bass response, but a big part of it is ear training. I think that's what really separates good producers from amateur producers. And then you have taste, talent, uniqueness that makes great producers. So really, this is the bad news. You got to train your ears. That's really the first rule I'm going to give you. These are the 4 quick and easy methods for preventing your beats from sounding like trash because you have out of key bass lines. The second one, and I kind of referenced it earlier, pun intended, I guess. Monitor on a device that has clear and audible bass frequencies. For me, I have a reference sub and I have headphones that have a good bass response. I have the Q701s. I bought these specifically because they are good for mixing bass. As you can see, they're open back. So this is not for recording. This is for monitoring. But a reference sub is expensive, as are these headphones. I got them on eBay. I seriously, I swear by secondhand gear. But if you can't afford to spend that money right now, if you have a phone, if you have car system, those may be the speakers on which you train your ears. Number 3, stop trusting these apps that give you the key. I'm not trying to hate on any one particular app, but just for a reference, people love using Mixing Key, and I think it's a great tool, but I collaborate with a lot of producers who will just give me the wrong key. They'll say, I made this bass in C major. I'm like, you can't hear this. This is not a major key. It sounds like a haunted house. You gotta at least know that the simplest way to just identify, as an amateur, to identify a minor key is by how creepy and dark it sounds. When you start getting into jazz and more complex chord voicings, then yeah, it becomes a little more difficult. But C is the relative major of A minor. So if you run something that's in A minor through Mixing Key or one of these automatic key detection programs, it may often give you the wrong key. It'll give you the relative. And here it is. This is a stupid AI overview, but it says that these programs identify the most dominant tonal center rather than the musical theory defined root note. And that's the problem, because bass lines are based on the root notes. And it also says that, complex melodies, key changes, non-traditional music, that can all complicate things. So that's why I say you need ear training, because if your ear is trained, if something's not right, you'll know intuitively. And the beautiful thing is YouTube University is free and it's great. You can find all kinds of ear training exercises. Unlock your ear, the most efficient ear training drill I know. There's a lot going on here. The secret of ear training, I don't know. I would love to watch all these. How to identify chord progressions by ear. This looks useful. Recognize notes using the major scale. All of this stuff looks really useful. Then it's just a matter of using this, applying this, actually spending time on this, because if this is an issue for you, then it should be a focus for you. And number 4, use the transpose method if ever you're in a position where you're writing a bass line and it just doesn't seem right, but you don't know why. Here's the problem with sub bass. They are sub frequencies. Sub means below. And because they're sub frequencies, what happens is our ears can't really discern between certain tones at that level. So half steps, whole steps, we can't discern between them. And so we don't get the right note. Look, what? Come on, man, stop. So the lower the bass note goes, the harder it is for our human ears to really pick up on. So listen. So when I'm down here, you might not even be able to hear it through your speakers or headphones, but the difference between this and this, it's really, I can't tell the difference. It's so low. And so what I do for my bass lines, Lily, cut that shit the fuck out. What I always do, theoretically, all of these sub basses that we download should be tuned to C. Not that it necessarily matters because we're not basing this on notes necessarily, we're basing it on our ears. But what I do is I just transpose all my bass lines at least 1 octave up. So if we're here, I'm gonna go 12 full half steps, so that's a full octave up. And I can better hear that this is absolutely not the correct note. I'm gonna mute the bass, and I can hear that bass here in the sample, and I want to match that. This is flat right now. My ears can tell that that's a flat bass note. So there it is. And there are 3 notes. So now we got that, and then we can drop it down 2 octaves. All right, let's get more into, I guess, more complex bass lines. It's all relative. I'm not this amazing virtuoso on music theory and on a particular instrument, but I'm just going to play a simple chord progression and try something out. Okay, so we are playing in the key of G, I believe. G minor. Let's see. Yeah, we're in G minor. You know, I'm one of those people who has always said you don't need to know super advanced music theory to make music, to make great music, actually. But I think everyone who makes great music understands music theory, maybe not in a traditional way where they're able to notate it or necessarily explain it using conventional music theory terms, but they have this internal understanding of music theory. Even if they play by ear, that's a deep understanding of music theory. You know, someone who can program amazing drums but can't necessarily explain it, they still understand it. But when it comes to scales, it helps just knowing the basics, just knowing that, hey, this is a minor scale, as I said before, the difference between major and minor, and at very least being able to identify a key. Because when you get into the studio with an artist, maybe you got to put tune on their voice. If you don't know the key, you're sitting there wasting all this time. You look like a fool and you get the key wrong, and then there are weird flat notes throughout and you set the shit to chromatic, and that's not the way to do it. So knowing some scales can help, but also here's the problem with that. If we're going to record a bass line to this chord progression, so we know these notes are in the scale of G minor. Oops. I got a cat here stomping on the keyboard. We know those are the notes. And so the problem here is that a lot of us believe that because all of those notes are in the scale, the key of G minor, we can use them all as we please within this bass line, and that's not true. Actually, while this bass VST loads up, this is a good time to remind you to join the Discord, because we're collaborating on beats, and this is the type of feedback that I give people all the time if their bass line's out of key, that if you join one of the upper tiers, you get the Painkillers pack for free. You get the new Fire Starters pack, it's the biggest sample pack I've ever dropped, for free. Go on to the Patreon and you download it for free. It's right there. Shout out to all the amazing members on the Patreon, in the Discord. We're always giving each other feedback. We're collaborating. It's $5 to join, and we're collaborating on beats, and we've sold 2 exclusives this month from beat collabs in the Discord. It's amazing. I love doing that. I love seeing it happen. Does our bass VST work? Okay, yes. We know the scale, right? So, hey, I can play any note in the bass line and it'll work because I know the scale. So C is in the scale of G minor. So I'm going to start with C. Let's try that. Some people might think that sounds good. A doesn't work. For me, this doesn't work. No, but why doesn't that work? Well, just because you're playing within the scale, so this goes back to that stupid AI overview that talked about root notes. So the root note of these chords is important. That's what determines the bass note that you're going to be playing. So this first chord is G. This is where I falter with my music theory. It's pathetic. G minor ninth. And so the root note of that chord is a G. It has to be this G. That's why that works. The second chord, what is that? I think it's, yeah, D sharp. And again, we can use the transpose method too if we're having trouble hearing these notes and discerning them from one another. So here, this might help. Let's go up an octave. C into D. I know they're the correct notes. This diminished chord is also a D. So what we could do is just do C, D, and then jump up an octave here so that it's not as boring. So C, D. Now this is a boring bass line, right? There's not much to it. We're pretty much just playing the notes. But they're the right notes. They're not going to make someone with perfect pitch violently angry when they listen to this. They're not going to make anyone's ears bleed or teeth crack in their mouths. So this is practice. And as a matter of fact, let me grab I'm going to grab drum loops from my Painkillers 4-pack because it's not just samples, it's drum loops too. The beat is starting to sound less boring, but I think we could do better. We could add some top line notes to the chords, the piano that is. We could add some guitar, but we can make the bass line more interesting. And so what I would recommend is if you're trying to get into bass lines and you're still struggling, just start by learning the root notes of each individual chords. And then once you learn all of those root notes, and you're comfortable with this, then you move on to some more complicated stuff. You can start playing fifths. Oh, am I prepared to even talk about this? So we can walk stuff up. So the fifth up from G is D. So what we can do, and this is another really easy method for, and I do this all the time, for making your bass lines a little more dynamic, instead of just hanging on to that G the whole time, what we can do is we can walk up to the D and then up back to the G, a higher octave. So that sounds good. We've added way more movement. What we can also do is go G, D, and then kind of like a grace note from the A to the G. And these are notes that are in the G minor scale. And we walk it back down. And we can use the same trick for the next note, which I think is, yeah, that D sharp. Isn't that a much better and more dynamic sounding track? I think so. And I'm not saying I'm amazing at bass lines, but what I did to learn better bass lines is I just listened to bass players. I would go to concerts and watch bass players play, and great bass players. Some of the best bass players, people that I can never truly mimic, but I'm looking at what they're doing. I'm like, wow, that's a really cool walk up. Can I just absorb that technique, aka steal? There are so many amazing tracks out there when you listen to either, the samples that other people make or actual old music, funk, soul, blues, whatever. You're going to hear some pretty amazing stuff being done on the bass. And it's unfortunate too, because bass is this underappreciated instrument. I think it plays a super important role in music, but a lot of people just kind of view it as this trivial instrument because they think that people are just playing the root notes and it's not that complicated. It is. I can appreciate the hell out of amazing bass line, especially when there's a cool walk up. But in order to build a mansion, you first need a foundation. So hopefully that helped you get to that foundation building point in your music theory journey. Just keep building from there. Much appreciated. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to get the sample pack that I used with the drums and all the samples, completely original, no sample clearance required, the link is below. The link to the Patreon too, to join the Discord and all that, get the sample packs for free, is also below. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Much success to you. Peace.